You hear it long before you actually see the damage. A violent concussive thud echoing down the hallway from your laundry room, immediately followed by the high-pitched shriek of an electric motor spinning out of control. You walk in expecting a simple, unbalanced load of heavy towels. Instead, you step into a creeping puddle of cold, sludgy gray water seeping deep into your expensive floorboards. You pop the lid on your sleek, Wi-Fi-enabled washing machine, and the drum is completely dead and sitting violently off-center. It radiates the distinct, toxic odor of a melted hairdryer directly into your face. You paid $1,200 for this premium appliance just 3 short years ago. You logically assumed that luxury pricing guaranteed heavy-duty steel internals and decades of reliability. But underneath that glossy, fingerprint-resistant stainless steel shell lies a mathematically calculated betrayal. This is not a random manufacturing defect, but a deliberate industry shift designed to drain your bank account. The engineering crime is fundamentally simple. Today, we are stripping off the fancy sheet metal to expose the microscopic nylon friction point that guarantees catastrophic failure. I am going to break down the subassembly replacement racket engineered to trap you the moment your factory warranty expires, and I will reveal the heavy analog survival standard that keeps you completely out of their predatory ecosystem. Welcome to the era of the plastic drivetrain extortion. You walk into the brightly lit appliance aisle, and the floor salesman immediately points you toward the massive cubic foot capacity drum. They dazzle you with the silent wash inverter motor and the custom digital cycle interface that looks like a spaceship console. You run your hand over the sleek, tinted glass lid and admire the chrome accents framing the detergent dispenser. The sales rep promises that the direct drive inverter technology will save you pennies on your monthly electric bill, but they conveniently omit the fact that those minor energy savings will be entirely wiped out by a single catastrophic mechanical failure. You sign the receipt, thinking you bought industrial reliability, entirely blinded by the aesthetic presentation. This is where the math hits you. The physical reality is hidden underneath that massive waterlogged tub where you never look. If you physically tip this modern marvel backward and inspect the transmission linkage, you will not find a heavy cast iron coupling transferring torque. You will not find the thick rubber isolators that kept your grandmother's washer running for 30 years. Instead, you will find a brittle, hollowed-out, splined plastic camring that cost the manufacturer roughly $8 to stamp out overseas. When you load in heavy wet bedding, that sheer, waterlogged mass creates immense inertial drag against the fragile drivetrain. The high-torque motor kicks on violently, and the forged steel motor shaft bites directly into those frail plastic gear splines. Because there is no mechanical clutch to slip and absorb the shock, all that kinetic energy transfers into the weakest point. Heat builds instantly from the intense, unmitigated mechanical friction between the steel shaft and the cheap nylon hub. Over a few hundred regular wash cycles, the steel eats the metal alive, shearing those little plastic teeth completely flat. The entire fragile mechanism shatters under the brutal rotational strain. Next time you tilt one of these dead units back, you will see a pile of white, powdery plastic shavings sitting on your floor. It looks exactly like a dusting of coarse snow right beneath a motor that can no longer grab the drum. Repairing this engineered failure point requires tearing the entire appliance down to the bare metal baseplate. Every tech carries specialized blowtorches in their tool bag explicitly to melt these fused hubs off the mangled shafts. It will easily cost you mid-hundreds in skilled labor just to access an $8 piece of disposable garbage. The parts catalog reveals the true agenda. They sell you on the capacitive touch glass panel and the smartphone notifications that ping you when your laundry is perfectly done. You can download custom wash cycles from the cloud and monitor water usage from your couch. The glossy marketing brochure promises total frictionless convenience and a deeply connected smart home ecosystem. The diagnostic service manual tells a much darker, much more expensive story. The literal brain of your machine is a massive, unsealed printed circuit board mounted directly above a high-humidity, vibrating box of boiling water. Think about the basic physics of a hot water wash cycle for just a second. As the machine runs, microscopic condensation rises continuously from the tub, bypassing the incredibly thin, conformal coating sprayed over the logic board. The protective resin is purposefully applied too thin to stop any real moisture intrusion. The water vapor inevitably bridges 2 microscopic solder points on the sensitive inverter circuit. A tiny, silent arc flashes across the board, completely severing the communication line to the main motor drive. You will wake up to find the digital screen flickering randomly in the dark like a dying fluorescent bulb. It is always accompanied by the distinct, acrid stench of burnt electronics wafting out from behind the detergent dispenser drawer. You cannot just buy the blown 50-cent capacitor to solder a quick fix. You are forced to order the entire master control assembly, which runs more than the cost of a complete budget machine from a decade ago. Why would any sane engineer mount naked microprocessors directly above a steam chamber? Ask any veteran technician who turns wrenches for a living. The showroom placards constantly boast about the cavernous tub size, claiming you can wash a king-size comforter and half your wardrobe in a single load. They want you focused entirely on the sheer volume to justify the outrageous premium price tag. They encourage you to overload the machine, treating it like an industrial laundry tumbler. What they actively hide from you is that this massive, unbalanced weight is suspended inside the thin steel cabinet by 4 impossibly weak metal rods. These critical suspension rods are the diameter of a cheap wire coat hanger. They are cushioned only by cheap, grease-filled plastic shock absorbers sitting at the very base of the machine. The immense friction from washing those heavy loads constantly degrades the thin factory grease applied to the friction pads. Once the grease cooks off, those plastic friction pads wear down to bare, scraping metal in record time. The suspension rod completely loses all dampening capability, turning your machine into a volatile, uncontrolled pendulum. When the spin cycle ramps up to high RPMs, the heavy tub goes entirely out of round, pulling violently against the compromised shocks. The machine literally walks across your laundry room floor, slamming against the drywall with concussive, rhythmic force. It leaves permanent black scuff marks and crushed wooden baseboards in its destructive wake. It requires a complete, labor-intensive suspension replacement, pushing your total cost of ownership into the stratosphere. It is the exact reason guys in my trade refuse to put anything built after 2010 in their own basements. Every single failure is a carefully calculated future transaction. The entire system is rigged against the homeowner. The plastic drivetrain extortion relies entirely on keeping you locked inside a closed ecosystem where you have zero financial leverage. First, the proprietary error code completely bricks the operating system, forcing you to hire a factory-authorized tech with a digital diagnostic tool just to read the fault. Second, the manufacturer explicitly refuses to sell the $8 shattered gear, mandating the purchase of an entire $400 lower tub assembly. Finally, you wait 6 grueling weeks for a back-ordered bundled component while hauling your rotting laundry to a public laundromat. Escaping this trap requires a total perspective shift. You're financing a thermodynamic nightmare with your own hard-earned cash. Here's your immediate counter-strategy. Leave the fragile spaceship displays to the victims. Buy the absolute cheapest base model available. Demand heavy analog mechanical selector knobs. Refuse any unit containing wireless network modules. Insist on a traditional dual-action agitator. Verify the drive coupling is solid cast metal. Ensure the top lid is heavy enameled steel. We need to stop rewarding corporations who build disposable monuments to shareholder greed. When you purchase basic, heavy analog machinery, you actively strip them of their recurring revenue streams. Hit the subscribe button if you are ready to stop being a passive consumer. Start punishing the monopolies that design this rolling catastrophe. The plastic drivetrain extortion only survives because we keep trading heavy steel for a useless glass touchscreen.